Fallout 4 is getting pretty old. Later this year, the game is going to turn 7, which is absolutely insane. And although many aspects of this game do hold up pretty well, we don't really need them to, because we have literally thousands of mods out there to add modernizations to this game, and in general, just make it look really good. Just recently, several new mods released for Fallout 4 that really bring it up to a new level visually. And some of these just bring in totally new features, as well as actually adding in new features to the Commonwealth overall, making it perfect and ripe for yet another new playthrough. And we'll even make some of those forgettable weapons look a lot better, so you may actually use some of the content that's already there. Unfortunately, at least for right now in Fallout 4, you can't actually fly planes. But thanks to today's video sponsor with War Thunder, you can fly planes as well as take advantage of a wide variety of other historical military vehicles totally for free on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. And although taking out other people in planes is pretty awesome, War Thunder doesn't stop there, as it also has things like helicopters, a wide variety of ground vehicles to try out, whether you're trying to be a heavy hitter or just get in and out very quickly. And War Thunder will even take you to the seas, each of these vehicles having a wide variety of different customization options. You'll have the ability to flex on your friends, don't worry. But you can even get all kinds of different armament customizations as well as unique devices, and there's some seriously powerful weapons in War Thunder. And these nukes will destroy everything from other players to even some of the buildings. And the best part, you're not just going to be stuck out in some desert or a field. War Thunder offers a wide variety of different environments to experience, my favorite being some of the urban ones, although there are fields if you want those too. So if you want to take to the air, ground, or sea, don't hesitate and click that link in the description. And because you're using my link, you're going to get unique vehicles, 3 days of a premium account, and those who already have an account will get unique vehicles. These rewards are for both new and old players, so the vets out there don't even have to worry. And thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. But looking back at Fallout 4, one of the first things we have to take a look at is Reactor, which is a totally new ENB to release for the game. And in fact, actually one of the most feature-rich ENBs, as it actually uses and takes advantage of some of the more recent updates to ENB. At its core, it's just a complete overhaul of the visuals of the game, what many feel brings it up to a more modern standard. It does a good job at making Fallout 4 look noticeably more vibrant. Some of the landscapes look much better, as well as the lighting in general has more of an impact. It's built around and depends on several other mods like NACX as well as ELFX, so you will notice some of the other changes as a result of them, but it really all comes together as a pretty nice package, a pretty beautiful thing visually with the overhauls and changes it makes to the Commonwealth. This will extend to both interiors and exteriors. Some of the new weathers added in by other mods mesh extremely well here. It's pretty obvious Reactor was designed to be used with these other mods. It's not like they're just tacked on at the end, which is a really nice touch and something not many other ENBs actually have to offer. And some of the synergies this can create is pretty amazing, like nuclear weathers in the glowing sea really standing out and making the entire game feel like something else at points. Obviously, ENBs are always going to be a super subjective one. There's a lot you could dive into with this one, a lot of optional settings you could turn on and off, customizations you can make yourself. In the background, I'm largely just showing you things by default, but if you like most of what you see but want to make a few tweaks, you probably can. And overall, it's a really big entry into the ENB space that only just released, and I think a lot of people are already interested in it. Although a mod that I think meshes super well with the Reactor is another new release with Luxor Summer. It's yet another comprehensive landscape overhaul for Fallout 4, and this one's pretty breathtaking. Like, there are definitely moments with this mod installed combined with Reactor where you're just kind of walking around and have to take it all in, take in what's going on in Fallout 4. It'll quote Fallout 4's landscape in a lush green, with new grass being the predominant change, but also things like flowers and trees all throughout. One of the big notable features is the level of foliage. It strikes a point where ground coverings are pretty dense at points, but it's mostly low grass. So the ground does have a nice coating of grass all over it, but the trees aren't overbearing. There's still a fairly sparse amount of trees most of the time. Some other green mods out there will have way more trees, impacting things like movement as well as line of sight, while this one maintains a level higher than Fallout 4's by default, but it doesn't really feel overbearing. And this will definitely depend somewhat, at least based off your location in the Commonwealth. We can have it be very sparse or even almost get a swampy Silent Hill vibe, as it meshes really well with some of those weathers added by some of the the other mods with Reactor. And it definitely needs to be said, the foliage here is extremely high quality. The actual textures and the texture fidelity on these plants as you walk throughout them just looks really good. This one also does have an added benefit or cost of requiring and depending on Luxor's HD overhaul. That is more or less a comprehensive texture upgrade to Fallout 4, so it just makes a ton of miscellaneous things look better. Basically, the whole Commonwealth looks better underneath everything. So not only are you getting lush greenery, but you're also just getting a ton of updated and upgraded textures, although it will be a fairly sizable download. And it doesn't break precombines or carry a major performance hit, which is huge for some people. Those two features alone will set this on a level of its own compared to a lot of the other green or landscape mods in general out there. Then we have a pretty cool one with synthetic variation, overhauling the Commonwealth in a pretty different and distinctive way. As what this is going to do is add in more variation to synths overall. For example, female Gen 1 synths will now appear in the Commonwealth. They're pretty creepy, they look weird, but the mod author said, hey, from a lore perspective, these probably would exist for multiple reasons. Gen 2 synths can also now be occasionally found wandering around throughout the Commonwealth. The mod author felt this would make a lot more sense than just Gen 1s and the occasional courser, but actually having some of these Gen 2s wandering throughout. And we get the newly added and pretty interesting Gen 2X synths, which are very unique to this mod, and honestly one of my favorite additions. The whole explanation here is that this was originally the future of the synth program. After the Gen 2s, they made these Gen 2Xs, but they were quickly scrapped and abandoned because the Institute became obsessed with Sean and his DNA. But more or less, these Gen 2X synths have a metal substructure, but on the outside appear human-like. Although, since these were a limited run and prototypes really, many of these are pretty heavily damaged, and that's how you're going to find them in the Commonwealth, which creates a really cool aesthetic here. You'll see lots of variation in the design overall, with various robotic parts appearing, whether it be your stomach, arms, legs, or even just a head, which is perhaps one of the creepiest variations of this. It definitely gives you Terminator vibes in Fallout 4, and I actually like this as an addition overall. I think it's a cool mix-up, as occasionally you'll run into these guys, and it definitely leaves a lasting impression. Some Gen 3 synths are found around also. These are very rare and a step below coursers, but they can be found wandering in the Commonwealth, as well as there are just more variations among coursers in general. But that's not all. Since there are a bunch more variations, these will spawn throughout. They'll occupy some of the level lists of other synth spawns, but in addition, there's additional spawns around Fort Hagen, as well as ArcJet will have some patrols around them. And although there's a few synth mods out there already, this is definitely one of the more interesting ones, at least in my eyes, as it adds in some more notable variations. Not just a different color armor, but actual different types of synths that will spawn in the level list as you're doing other quests. It's not like all of these guys are just contained to one area. But now, taking a look at an overhaul that is a bit more specific, do you know what is pretty mediocre in Fallout 4? The assault rifle. Obviously low-hanging fruit, one of the most commonly criticized weapons in the game, but also on the other side of things, I'm not a big fan of how the combat rifle and combat shotgun are visually so similar. Well, today we're able to fix that, thanks to Degenerate Dak, who is in fact another Fallout 4 YouTuber. There's technically two mods bring overhauls to each of these weapons, that being the assault rifle and the combat rifle specifically. The combat rifle gets its own custom receiver. That is pretty similar. It's not like it's going to look like a completely different weapon, but it is clearly distinct now from the combat shotgun, which is really nice. That's a big upgrade in its own right. The two definitely look like they're in the same family, but you can easily tell them apart now. And there's a few other overhauls, like the combat rifle now has magazines to reflect its ammo type, so it'll be smaller for the new 45 option that's available, as well as the ammo overall is converted to 5.56 now. In a similar vein, the assault rifle also has a completely new look and now carries the name MG69, unless you want it to still be called the assault rifle, as changing its name to MG69 is an optional download. I would say it has a similar overall style to the older assault rifle, but this one looks much more like a machine gun of sorts, and I think it looks a lot cooler. And it has the added benefit of replacing all of the old existing ARs in the game. It also fires through 08 now to better occupy that machine gun role. They're two pretty simple mods that actually do end up having a big impact and feel right at home in Fallout 4 as far as lore-friendly weapons go. And when you're going for that ultra-modded playthrough, just making these weapons look better doesn't really feel like enough. It feels like these are two that do need additional attention and refinement, and I feel like this is the perfect mod to actually bring that. Then we have one that you're either going to love or hate. I think it's going to be a very polarizing option. Simple Impact is going to do a few things. One of the big ones is adding in sound effects for certain things in Fallout 4, like landing hits on an enemy, landing headshots on an enemy, actually finishing off off and killing an enemy, but then also it'll add in visual effects while you're firing. So there'll be some weapon shake as well as a blur effect that will play. The hit sounds make things feel very satisfying as you play. I'm not sure how well this comes off in the video, but as I'm actually doing it and I could get that feedback of hitting someone or finally finishing somebody off, it definitely feels pretty nice. As well as the weapon shake and blur make some of those weapons feel quite powerful. Really exemplifies what you are firing. There's a lot of customization. You can change what sound is played for each of the various hit effects, and you could actually turn off some of those sounds completely. Out of the box, it has these kill quotes that I immediately turned off. I hate them. And overall, this will transform the gunplay in Fallout 4, and some of you will love this. It definitely brings it up to more modern standards, I guess, in a way. It makes Fallout 4's combat more comparable and have some of the features that many other modern FPS games do have. And if you want that and like that in Fallout 4, this is perfect for you. But I know a lot of people don't want that, and they actually like Fallout 4's combat by default. And like I mentioned, a lot of this is configurable. If you just want the weapon shake and blur, you could have that and none of the sound effects. Or if you just want some sound effects or specific ones, you could have that only on also. But next up, we have a monumental one, a massive mod release for Fallout 4, hot coffee. What this mod is going to do is add steam to some hot foods as well as coffee in Fallout 4 while other NPCs are drinking them. So coffee, steaks, and soups will now have a small amount of steam coming off because they are hot foods. Unfortunately, this is really only for when other NPCs are eating them, so as you see somebody eating a soup or eating a steak or drinking a coffee, there'll be a little bit of steam. It's a nice immersive change, a relatively small mod overall, but it felt very at home in this video. Okay, so at this point, we've overhauled the combat rifle and the assault rifle and even some synths along the way. The next major culprit as far as weapons go in Fallout 4 is definitely the pipe guns. These guys suck. I feel like you see them all the time and I just am tired of how they look, so we're gonna fix that with scrap metal and makeshift welds, which is going to be a comprehensive retexture of the pipe guns. This one is in fact a retexture, but it is a really good looking one. As in effect, what it's going to do is retexture every single piece of the pipe arsenal, this extending to even the syringer rifle, the actual pipe rifle itself, as well as the pipe revolver. And these textures look amazing. Even as I zoom in super close, you could just see how good these things look. Texture fidelity here is pretty much unparalleled for some of the other pipe overhaul mods out there. There are a few other ones, but I like this one a lot. It just makes things look great. Does it make the pipe weapons more satisfying to use? Actually, yeah, I found myself leaning on them and using them a bit more often in a playthrough because I was just in awe of how gorgeous they are now. And to me, this really just feels like a full-on upgrade. It still maintains that original look and style. They still look used and like they're thrown together from miscellaneous parts. It's just the textures now are higher quality. And I also like how some of those extra components, whether it be a magazine or a silencer, have a bit more pop to them now. A bit more color added in from whatever household component actually makes those up. Unfortunately, this mod author didn't actually stop here as he went on to laser weapons also. Technically, these are two separate mods, magnetic coils and capacitors, which is a Gauss rifle retexture, as well as focuser arrays and worn plastics, which is a laser weapon retexture and all of the laser weapons. This basically having that exact same mentality and ideology as the pipe weapon replacer. I feel like with the pipe weapons, it was needed most of all, but these other weapons, all of these energy weapons getting impacted, it just looks really good. A lot of these look way better than they do by default. With the laser weapons in particular, I feel like they did a really good job at making them look true to themselves. They really do look like the laser weapons in Fallout 4. They still maintain that identity, just way higher quality. And again, sometimes you get more of a pop with some of the color contrast, which I'm a big fan of. And it is one of the few laser retexture mods that is actually comprehensive. Not just the laser rifle and pistol, but actually the Gatling laser as well as the laser musket are included in this one, and even the Institute lasers, just for a little extra flair. Overall, a couple of mods that I think are just clear upgrades over what is there by default in Fallout 4, and it makes some of those familiar weapons a bit more fun to use because you obviously want to look at them because they look so freaking good now. So there's a collection of different things you could do to Fallout 4 to bring it up more to a 2022 standard, and it's actually almost comprehensive. You made the game overall look better, you made the landscape look better, and by proxy all of the various structures look better with that texture pack, and then even a bunch of the weapons look much better, and perhaps a couple of cool or more interesting combat interactions. Hopefully you guys found this one informative. Making Fallout 4 its best version of itself in 2022 is definitely going to be a big goal of this channel if you do want to get subscribed. With that said, as always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.